Good day and welcome to News Now on TV360. I'm Thelma Okoro. The death toll in the outbreak of meningitis in Nigeria's northern region has risen to 269. According to the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, over 1,800 suspected cases of meningitis were reported in 15 of the country's 36 states. The NCDC says it's now working with the World Health Organization, the United Nations Children's Fund, and the Medicines Sans Frontiers Agency, also known as Doctors Without Borders, to try to control the outbreak. Meningitis is the inflammation of tissue surrounding the brain and spinal cord, which can be caused by viral or bacterial infections. The current outbreak of meningitis is the worst outbreak ever experienced in Nigeria since 2009. The United Nations says nearly 27 million people in countries facing famine do not have access to safe water. According to the agency, countries that face such threats are Nigeria, Somalia, South Sudan, and Yemen. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, says this water scarcity can be as deadly to severely malnourished children as a result of lack of food. It believes this could lead to a disease outbreak in the countries affected. The Nigerian Senate has suspended Aliyu Ndume, a senator from Borno State, for 6 months. The Senate says it is suspending Ndume for deliberately bringing up an issue the upper legislative chamber describes as portraying it in a bad light. Ndume had asked for an investigation of Senate President Bukola Saraki and Dino Melaye, another senator, over questionable allegations leveled against them. Saraki had been accused of importing a bulletproof Range Rover with fake documents, while Dino Melaye had been accused of lying about being a graduate of the Ahmadu Bello University. The suspension takes effect from Wednesday, March 29, 2017. It follows a recommendation of the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges. Still on our top stories now, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has sent the names of 2 ministerial nominees representing Kogi and Gombe states to the Senate for confirmation. The nominee representing Kogi State, Stephen Ocheni, is replacing the late Minister of State for Labour, James Ocholi, who died in a car accident in 2016. While the second nominee from Gombe State, Suleiman Hassan, is replacing the immediate past Minister of Environment, Amina Mohammed, who was appointed the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate says it will no longer consider nomination of officials from the executive. This follows the refusal of the president to sack Ibrahim Magu as EFCC's acting chairman. The Senate had on Tuesday called for Magu's sack and suspended the confirmation of 27 INEC recs as a result of the case. It says it will not hold the hearing for at least 2 weeks. The presidency, on its part, has said it will not argue with the Senate on the matter, but rather respect its decision. Acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, says all government agencies tasked to fight corruption must work for the benefit of all Nigerians. Speaking at an anti-corruption summit hosted by the commission, Magu urged all stakeholders to join in the fight against corruption.
Nigeria is at a critical phase in its evolution as a nation, and we have all identified corruption as the greatest challenge undermining its development. This diagnosis is actually not new. What we have lacked in the past is the commitment to make a difference. I believe that we are uniquely placed to change the narrative as far as the fight against corruption in Nigeria is concerned. Our people have suffered for too long to continue to be abandoned to the cruel fate imposed by coups and thieves. There will be no hiding places, as every kobo taken illegally from the treasury will be traced, recovered, and returned.
So it will be in our collective interest to try to stand together to address this menace called corruption. And therefore, we as working class, realizing the fact that we have been at the receiving end, we will also be the vanguard of fighting this fight against corruption. For us, it's a priority, and that's why the issue of fight against corruption and also canvassing for issues of good governance has actually been the centrality of part of the campaign strategies of NLC, because it's both a human rights issue and also an issue that is a core level issue. So I think it's very important for us also to realize that it's not even about the inter-collaboration between agencies. No, it's a project that is a Nigerian project, and every citizen must key into it.
The problem of Nigeria has the problem of impunity. You know, you could do anything in your own particular corner and you are so reassured that nothing can happen. Until it's degenerated to a point that if a big man wants to threaten you, he will hit you and ask you to take him to court, because he knows that nothing might come out of it, or that for the next 10, 20 years you are in court. Now, when you have that level of impunity everywhere, there's no way society can grow. So I personally appreciate first the idea of, you know, raising the conversation to get Nigerians to buy into it, for people to recognize that there are no individual escape route if the entire system collapses. And the system will collapse if we don't deal with these issues decisively.
Setting up special courts for EFCC will not in any way facilitate trial. What will facilitate trial is to ensure that the EFCC investigates cases very, very thoroughly before they go to court. I made the point here. You do not arrest and then fish for evidence. You fish for evidence before you arrest. That is why abroad, as soon as a person is arrested, he's taken to court the following day. But here, EFCC arrests a person, detains the person 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, because they are fishing for evidence, using mental and physical torture of that suspect to be able to get evidence from the suspect, or to force the suspect to confess to do certain things, or to agree to part with certain money. When you do that, you are not carrying out the rule of law. And the rule of law, as far as I'm concerned, is the bastion of any constitutional democracy.
Nigeria's Minister of Defense, Sudan Ali, has finally admitted that Abubakar Shekau has not been killed by the Nigerian military as widely speculated. Shekau is the factional leader of the Boko Haram sect. The minister's statement contradicts previous claims by the military confirming Shekau's death. He, however, assured that the military was still working to decimate the Boko Haram sect. The Nigerian Navy ship Delta has begun the use of swamp vehicles to destroy illegal refineries in Delta creeks. The commander of NNS Delta, Ibrahim Dewu, flagged off the crashing of illegal refineries on Wednesday in Warri Southwest local government area of Delta State. He said the deployment of the buggies would bring a lasting solution to illegal refinery business in the Niger Delta region. The Nigerian Prison Service has sanctioned the officials responsible for the health report that facilitated the release of Bala Ingilari, an ex-governor of Adamawa State. The former governor was last month sentenced to 5 years in prison for corruption. However, the same court on Monday granted him bail for the sum of 100 million naira. The court granted the former governor bail on health conditions. Osun State Governor Ralph Aregbesola has set up a 5-man commission of inquiry to unravel the cause of the bloody crisis that ravaged the ancient city of Ile-Ife on March 8, 2017. Aregbesola urged the commission to investigate and determine the true cause of the mayhem and identify those behind it. The commission was also charged to recommend appropriate civil or criminal actions to be taken against the perpetrators of the act. The commission has been given 4 weeks to complete its job. Speaker of the House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara says the budget of the National Assembly will be made public in 2017. Dogara stated this at an interactive section with newspaper editors at his office in Abuja, the nation's capital. He says he believes that a lot of Nigerians have a wrong perception about the National Assembly's 115 billion naira budget, which he says was about 2% of the total Nigerian budget. The trial of Gabriel Suswam, a former governor of Benue State, and his finance commissioner, Omodachi Kolobia, suffered a setback following the absence of the former governor. Susam failed to show up in court. He is currently detained by the Department of State Services. The former governor and his co-accused are being prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on a 9-count charge of money laundering to the tune of 3.1 billion naira.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. Two of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no, you don't need to do this. We're only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Okay, which came up with this one now? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back to Business Stories now. The Central Bank of Nigeria has directed Bureau de Change operators to sell the dollar at 362 naira per dollar. This directive comes barely 24 hours after its directive to deposit money banks in the country to sell foreign exchange obtained from it to retail end users at not more than 360 naira per dollar for invincibles. The bank urged licensed BDCs to play by the rule, cautioning that the CBN would not hesitate in sanctioning any erring dealer. The Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (NATI) says that the debt burden of the 36 states of the Federation rose to over 3.342 trillion naira as of 2016. Lagos, Delta, Osun and Akwa Ibom states topped the debt chart with a total debt profile of 1.262 trillion naira, representing about 38% of debts owed by the 36 states of the Federation. The breakdown shows that Lagos was indebted to the tune of 603.25 billion naira. Delta is owing 331.95 billion naira, while Osun and Akwa Ibom State are both owing 165.91 billion naira and 161.23 billion naira respectively. Oil prices extended gains on Wednesday, lifted by Libyan supply disruptions and expectations of an OPEC-led output cut being extended. Brent crude futures rose 25 cents to $51.58 per barrel, while U.S. crude futures were up 22 cents at $48.59 per barrel. Oil production from the western Libyan fields of Sharara and Wafa has been blocked by armed protesters, reducing output by some 250,000 barrels per day. This has prompted the National Oil Corps to declare force majeure on Tuesday. Libya was excluded from the oil cuts by OPEC agreed late last year as the country's oil sector suffered from unrest that followed the toppling of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. The UK government has sent a formal notice of the country's intention to withdraw from the European Union. Theresa May, the British Prime Minister, confirmed that the UK had triggered Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, beginning a legal process that must end in 2 years' time, with Britain leaving the EU. This signals the beginning of the end of a relationship that has endured for over 44 years. The letter was delivered to EU Council President Donald Tusk by Tim Barrow, Britain's permanent representative to the EU. May's 6-page letter to Tusk was polite, stressing that Britons want to remain committed partners and allies to their friends across the continent. She says the two sides should engage with one another constructively and respectfully. But the split is expected to be bitter. EU leaders will not want to make leaving the Union seem easy to deter other countries that might be considering a referendum of their own. Sweden's Prime Minister has paid tribute to a United Nations worker who died in Democratic Republic of Congo. The remains of two UN investigators, Swedish-born Zaida Catalan and US citizen Michael Sharp, and their Congolese interpreter, who went missing this month in an area engulfed in a violent uprising, were found on Monday. The investigators were part of a group monitoring a sanctions regime imposed on Congo by the UN Security Council when they disappeared in Kasai Central Province. Nigeria's Sports Minister Solomon Dalong says the government would not interfere in the Sports Federation elections scheduled to hold in April this year. Dalong, while speaking with reporters in Abuja, said the elections whose guidelines would be democratic. He said government would not be going to nominate anybody to any of the boards of the national federations. Now, Spanish champions Barcelona have condemned a decision to slam a 4-match ban on its captain Lionel Messi. The Argentina captain was banned by football governing body FIFA for directing insulting words at an assistant referee during his country's 1-0 victory over Chile. The ban, however, affects only international games. His club has leaped in the defense of their star man, saying it is surprised by that decision. In a statement, the club described the ban as unfair. Maria Sharapova says she is excited about her return to competition after spending over a year out owing to a drug ban. Russia's former world #1 was initially banned for 2 years after testing positive at the 2016 Australian Open for Meldonia. Sharapova fought to overturn the ban, saying she had not been properly advised of the official change. This led the Court of Arbitration for Sport to cut the ban to 15 months. In its ruling, the court said it did not believe she was an intentional doper. Well, that's it on news now. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Thelma Okoro.